Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to What's Up Wednesdays, the professionals of the Roundtable, always brought to you by Healing Your Way, who, by the way, you can find on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, all the places. And if you like the podcast, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We always appreciate hearing from you. Today, we are joined by...
Hi, I'm Monica McGrow. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and I practice out of Healing Your Way. I'm there on Mondays at Doylestown, at the Doylestown location, and then on Wednesdays in Newtown.
Always love having you on. Thanks for joining us.
I always love being with you. It's like talking to a friend.
We are friends. We're best friends, according to me, actually.
All right. I'll take it.
Today, we are talking about something very topical for this time of year. Sleep.
Yes.
Bedtime is at 4.
Honestly, what inspired me to read this is that I tend to not read. I just jumped right in there to read a book called read this, Why We Sleep. And for me, I was always raised like more is better. And I always thought it was like, a badge of honor if you could go without sleep. So I know, especially this time of year, it was harder to kind of stay awake, but I would always kind of push through because I thought that's what you had to do. And as I was going through acupuncture school, we learned that, winter, fall, then going into winter, everything slows down, and we really do need to give ourselves permission to slow down because naturally that's kind of what our body wants to do. It's what nature does, and it's actually what's best for us. So I was like, well, why? Because I know so many people, especially in Western culture, I think buy into this idea of I'll sleep when we're dead, or we'll sleep when we're dead. But why do we sleep? Why do we need sleep? Why is it bad for us to not have sleep? What are we compromising that we just don't even know? So I picked up the book, Why We Sleep. I have it right here. I just have to remember who wrote it. Matthew Walker. And he kind of goes into it because I don't know, it's not a topic that I feel like talk often about. So yeah, I just kind of was curious.
I feel like the only time we really talk about sleeping anymore is just to say, I slept like crap last night.
Yes. It's so true. It is. So, I mean, there's so much I could say about it. I thought if you want to just do I do great if you just give me like bits and pieces and questions, and then I can dive in from there. Otherwise, going into the idea of sleep, my circadian rhythm and my melatonin starting to spike around this time. So my brain doesn't always operate probably in this coherent way. So I'll start spouting out random facts at you. Stream of consciousness if you just let me go. So I guess take it easy on me, give me bite-sized questions, and I'll see what I can do. Again, I'm just going to kind of put that disclaimer out there. It's still a relatively new topic for me, but I found it really interesting and worth maybe sharing as a topic for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just pull from like personal experience, what you've heard from friends. So I guess let's start off with the bare bones, most basic. Why is it important that we have a regular sleep schedule?
Okay, so the idea is that our bodies, we're so aware during the day. So we think we need to eat, we need to reproduce, but evolutionary speaking, even a word, all living things have some sort of a sleep cycle, down to like fruit flies, fish, birds, mammals. And one of the things he said is if it wasn't so important, evolution would have kind of teased this out, because it's really weird when you think about it. When we're sleeping, as animals or even humans way back in our caveman days, like that's when we're most vulnerable. But it must be so important that it never got phased out of our evolutionary process. So what he says is that during sleep, if you think about kind of like, old timey computers, like when, or even any information system management is probably a better example. There needs to be this window where everything shuts down and repairs. So sleep is when all of that happens. Yes, a lot of things are happening while we're awake, but during different phases of sleep, we're doing our our physical and emotional maintenance. And there's a lot of health implications if you compromise that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like whenever you get sick, you get tired.
Well, you just brought up a really good point too. Or is it that you're tired and that you're not getting sleep and then your immune system's compromised? You just brought up being sick. So one of the things they say is that there were some studies done and they actually measured different things in the body related to the immune system, and your natural killer cells actually go down by, I think it was like 60%. Is that right? No, 70% in
Wow.
one day if the certain group was deprived of sleep by only 4 extra hours. So if you get your 8 hours of sleep and you decrease that by 4 hours for one night, your natural killer cells drop by 70%. And your natural killer cells are really important because they're what fight viruses. They're what help kind of regulate maybe those precancerous, like the precancerous cell growth. They're kind of what can also contribute or take away from blood flow that could feed a tumor. So it's just so important, even for what you just said, staying healthy. And it's not just keeping your energy up. Like a very key component in your immune system is literally decreased after a deprivation of 4 hours in one night. I mean, it's just stuff that doesn't go talked about very often. That's just pretty profound and significant.
To say the least.
Mhm.
If somebody would have told me that,
Yeah.
I think my biggest problem is, especially like with past jobs and they know who they are, I would come home, still be stressed out about the day, but I like push it to the side. I go about my business. I'm cleaning the house, making dinner, taking the dog out. I lay down, and all I'm thinking about is, oh my God, how am I going to respond to that email? How do we push that aside and still focus on sleep?
Well, they also call it, I'll get to like maybe some strategies later, but that idea of what you just described, he does talk about also in the book. And it's the idea of being wired and tired. So in your case, there's a couple things that go into being able to fall asleep. And one of them is your circadian rhythm. So that's your 24-hour cycle that your body goes through. And when melatonin gets released in your body, it doesn't put you to sleep, but it kind of signals to your body that sleep is coming, and then everything can kind of get ready for sleep. So that's the first thing, is your circadian rhythm has a certain time that it signals to you when you're sleeping. And he actually talks about how there are genetically, like, we pass down that trait of being a morning person or a night owl. So it's a legit thing. So if you, I mean, anxiety and overthinking possibly the email is a whole different thing, but I just kind of wanted to touch on that. My husband's someone who stays up all night. Like, he loves it. And what's crazy, and I'm gonna have to apologize to him after reading this book, I'm like, no, you got to get up. Like, but his circadian rhythm is slightly different than mine, where he needs to stay up later. That's how he's wired, but he also still needs the same amount of sleep. So I should let him sleep in a little bit. Whereas when I'm like tired and wired and cranky at night, my circadian rhythm, I'm more of a morning person. So I should be able to get up early, but I also need the grace at night to kind of peace out once in a while instead of trying to stay up with everyone as late as everybody. But going back to what you're talking about, with the email, the other thing that they said that you need to fall asleep is you have to be in your circadian rhythm. So going to bed when your body's clock is signaling it's best for you to go to bed. But also they talk about sleep pressure. So, oh my gosh, adenosine. Let me look up what the actual, where's my book? What is the actual chemical? I have to think about this. I think it's adenosine. I really do. It is adenosine. So it's this chemical that as soon as you wake up, your body starts producing. And as you go through the day, your body produces more and more and more of it. So once it hits that peak, that also is a signal to your body for you to go to sleep. So both of those things have to happen. Your adenosine pressure, your sleep pressure has to be at its highest for you to fall asleep. And you also have to be in rhythm with your clock for you to fall asleep. So if either one of those things are off, you get the tired and wired feeling. So if you get things that block either of those, then you have kind of problems. So what you're talking about, that stress and anxiety from maybe the email, is blocking those responses in your body. So the idea of maybe something like acupuncture can help get those two rhythms of your body, because acupuncture is all about getting your body back into homeostasis, and kind of help with either one of those mechanisms within your body to link up, sync up, and then hopefully allow you to fall back asleep or fall asleep.
I have to get on the schedule.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other things that they talk about. I mean, we're doing like the no-no right now, and that's like looking at a screen. So they do say things like not looking at screens 2 hours before bed, because the screen actually has the blue light. The blue light goes into your retina. The retina has a very specific wavelength, and that wavelength goes to your it's the center in the brain that kind of regulates your circadian rhythm, but it signals alertness and awakeness. Like, it thinks that it's daytime, so it doesn't allow your circadian rhythm to kind of get in sync with perhaps your adenosine levels. So that's another reason why sometimes we're tired and wired. And they just suggest, if we have to be on screens because it's part of life, use blue light glasses or some sort of a filter.
Yeah, I was going to say you can pry my Kindle from my cold, dead hands, but I wear the blue light glasses. I do have those. And we actually have our first question from the chat. My brain is dying. There is a thing called good sleep and shallow sleep. I have many days where I sleep a lot but don't feel rested at all. Why does this happen, and what can I do?
Okay, so again, still a new topic. So there's little holes in my theory. Forgive me, give me grace. But they kind of did go into sleep cycles. So you have these certain waves while you're awake. I think they were theta waves. Oh, I'm having a brain fart. I think it's a theta wave. Where's my book? Anyway, whatever ways when you're awake. So as you're going into sleep, there is non-REM sleep, and then there's REM sleep. So when you're going through non-REM sleep, there's phase 1, 2, and 3, or N1, N2, and N3. And each of those are associated with certain signals in the body. When you're in those stages of sleep, that's your early stage of sleep. During that particular period, that's when your body can actually still take in outside interference. So that's why sometimes you'll jolt or things like that, I believe, because you're still trying to stay asleep, but you're still, I think, cognizant of the things around. So that's probably the shallow sleep that you're talking about. And then after that, there is your REM sleep, which is like your deep dream sleep. So each of these is responsible for two different things. So your non-REM sleep it's the shallower sleep, yes, but it's responsible for all like that physical repair. And then as you go deeper into sleep, that's your dream state. And that's actually, there's a lot of research saying that's where you do a lot of your kind of like emotional repair. So in the course of a night, you'll go through, I think they said maybe 6 different of these sleep cycles. So you'll go through non-REM, NREM 1, 2, 3, and then you'll drop down into REM. Then you'll come back out of REM and go 3, 2, 1, and then you'll go back in. So at any point, if you're getting disrupted in any one of those sleeps, the shallower sleep is that NREM sleep. So that's why you're getting woken up. Like you're just not in it deep enough. But what stinks about that is the repercussions of not getting that. So if you're not getting the NREM sleep, that's when all those physical repairs happen. So I feel like you're going to feel more fatigued physically during those times. That's if you can't get into that deep sleep, that's when you're going to have more issues with muscle repair, or with maybe cardiovascular issues, because some of that, the cortisol levels and repair in the arteries happen there too. I think like metabolic issues, insulin resistance, things like that can get affected if you're interrupted in that particular stage of sleep.
Can you I don't know how to phrase this to still sound intelligent.
Please do.
So,
Please phrase it in the most idiotic way possible so I feel better about
are there like do-overs? You know what I mean? Like
like can
if
you go
you wake
back to
up,
sleep?
yeah, like are you so let's say you have like a really bad sleep, like a categorically bad sleep.
Okay.
Can you like fall back asleep and like do it again, or are you like overdoing it?
Absolutely. No, I think you can, because you have the opportunity to go in and out of these cycles and they are very rhythmic, you can definitely go back into it. They did talk a little bit about like rebound sleep or sleep recovery. So some people do say that, maybe I won't sleep all week because I'm powering through, but then I'm going to make up for it on the weekend. And there's some truth to it. They did some sort of research with like fruit flies where they like put them all to sleep, and then they actually did find that they all tried to go back to sleep. So it's a natural instinct to want to recoup that. But they did actually study like if one group, I don't remember the exact test they did, but they did separate a group where they allowed them to have their 8 to 9 hours, and they did certain tests with them and had their performance analysis. And then they had another group where they deprived them, let them try to recoup. And while they did better than the group that was straight up sleep deprived, it wasn't as good as getting your full night's sleep. So I think it's kind of one of those, it's always good to try, and you'll never lose. You'll still have gains from it, but it will never be the same as getting a good 8 to 9 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still worth doing it because it's still not as bad as just going sleep deprived.
Yeah. So do some people need more sleep than others? Like my boyfriend can go to sleep at midnight and wake up at 5 or 6 and he's good. I can sleep from 9 p.m. to like 11 a.m. and still need a nap.
According to the book, they would say just because you feel alert doesn't necessarily mean that you're still getting the benefits. If you are not getting the full like 8 to 9 hours. So my base answer is everyone does actually need it. Whether they feel it, they might have also set themselves up to feel like this is my norm, but they are actually tired. And not because of how they're feeling and, like in terms of how alert they are, as I said, but in terms of have they given their body enough time to repair? Have they given enough time for their, short-term memory to go into the long-term memory to give more room in their hippocampus to learn throughout the day? So all of those things, have they given enough time for cortisol levels to drop in their body? All of those things that happen that maybe we're not even aware of, that he may or may not be reaping the benefits of if he can go without, more hours. But there are groups that need more sleep than others. Babies, because of the rapid growth. And they did this whole thing with like teenagers. So because teenagers' brains are going through like a remodeling stage, they say that teenagers actually do need significant more. Some of the reasons I feel like they stated were just that brain remodeling. So their brain is going through what's called pruning. So they're actually getting rid of different synapses and pathways that they don't need anymore. In addition, teens are going through this whole thing where they're learning a lot in school. They're kind of figuring out their identities. They're figuring out like the whole social thing. All of this is learning. And if they don't give, again, I kind of use that example of long-term, short-term memory. If they don't give their hippocampus time to empty and move things to the cortex versus the hippocampus, they're not going to be as receptive and remember the things that they need to remember for all of their interactions, not just school, but social interactions and things like that. They also talked about there's that like stereotype of the moody teenager. So they talk about how the amygdala, which is kind of like your reptilian fight or flight center, when people were sleep deprived, their amygdala was like firing without any kind of breaks, so to speak. And they measured it by using a functional MRI, and they measured how much, I think they call it a bowl test. That was how much blood and oxygen that particular area of the brain was requiring. So the more blood and oxygen that part of the brain was needing, the more active it was. So they were finding in sleep deprived people, this center was like off the charts. And in addition, the part that kind of keeps this in check is your prefrontal cortex, which is like your logical side. So that's when, if I'm trying to think of an example, if someone cuts me off when I'm driving on the turnpike, my amygdala is like, rah! But then my prefrontal cortex is like, it's okay. You're on time for work. They got in front of you. Everyone's safe. It's not a big deal. But for teenagers, when they're not getting enough sleep, this is like on hyper overdrive and this is shut off. So teens need a lot more sleep to kind of keep those two things kind of in check. They talked about puberty and how, what was one of the hormones was affected. I have to think about which one. It might have just been cortisol, and just kind of keeping that at bay, because cortisol levels drop in the body when you're sleeping and it kind of clears everything out. Another really cool one was they talked about the elderly and how another function sleep has is there is a certain protein that is created in the brain. And during sleep is literally when our body clears it out. But if we don't sleep sufficient and the body doesn't clear this particular protein out, just like the arteries can build up plaque, the brain builds up this plaque and it kind of contributes to Alzheimer's. So.
Oh boy.
So it was a lot.
No, that was the last thing you said about it, like building up in your brain, like that's not even something I ever thought was a thing. You know what I mean?
I can't recommend the book. I probably will go back and reread it because there was just so much in it. Another fun fact, because now you're just giving me on the fun facts that I learned. So they were talking about drunk driving and how more accidents are actually caused by, they call it drowsy driving. And what they did was they compared in a simulator, so it was safe, drunk driving and drowsy driving, and how many different kind of transgressions happen on the road and things like that. And they were similar, and that more people are on the road drowsy driving than drunk driving, or driving, under any other kind of influence. And they did then another study where they did drunk driving, drowsy driving, and drunk and drowsy, because typically, if you're out drunk, not that I'm running around drunk driving, but more people are out. If they are drunk driving, they are tired because it's late at night. People were out late. So they were just talking about kind of the ramifications of that. And even the idea that if you're drunk driving, but you didn't fall asleep at the wheel, you're at least going to try to like lay on the brakes or swerve. Your reaction's delayed. But when you're drowsy driving, you're just like this unobstructed missile because you're asleep. So you're not even going to be trying to like press on the brakes or swerve if you fall asleep at the wheel.
I also feel like drunk driving is easier to avoid. Like, you're going out drinking. Hey, can you come pick me up? I'm at the bar. Versus, I didn't sleep good last night. I have to make it into the office at 7. Hi, can you come take me into work?
So it's permissible. It's not, not drunk driving, but what you just said, we have this need to kind of power through. And I think sleep deprivation is a real thing. And they were saying that, I don't remember what the actual markers were, but the amount of melatonin and different things being released in the body to cause this can happen as early as 10 o'clock at night. So it's just something to consider. I thought it was interesting. And I know, I'm guilty of it. I've been on the road being like, oh no, I'm fine. And like rolling down all the windows and having all the music up. Yeah. Now it just put it shed a lot of light on that for me, that it really is as dangerous as drunk driving or more. And
yeah, the amount of times I've gone into work and thought I should have called in sleepy,
Well, you can't say
disgusting.
that, right? I'm sorry, I can't come in. I'm too tired.
Yeah, no, you really can't. Could you imagine how that conversation would go? Hi, boss. Can't make it today. Too
Right.
tired to drive. Drink a coffee.
Well, and that's what's interesting. They do say that's why you get the crash is people are tired. We are getting up because we're not getting enough sleep, and then we're drinking coffee, and coffee is what suppresses the adenosine that's kind of rising in our body. So it's making us not feel tired. But as soon as that caffeine wears off, we're back to the adenosine that's been building up from when we woke up at 6 a.m. It's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The caffeine wore off, and we're like ready to crash because our artificial, Band-Aid is removed.
Our
So
go-go juice.
yes, I mean, I don't even want to think about the effects of like what energy drinks do, and then
We're not
like,
talking about that. No. Is there anything, though, to be said for the quality of sleep when it's then 3 o'clock in the afternoon and we're reaching for our third, fourth, fifth cup of coffee? How much are we messing up our sleep at night?
well, I think a lot, because what we alluded to is we need to go to bed. We need to rest when our body's rhythm is right and when the melatonin and the adenosine are all kind of in line. And if we mess up with this kind of perfect alignment and we start suppressing it, our bodies might be ready and raring to go to sleep biologically, but if we suppress the adenosine, we're going to think we need to be alert. So we kind of miss our window, and then everything then you kind of have this snowball effect. So no blue
The
light,
balance.
no caffeine after a certain time, trying to.
How am I going to survive?
You just get more acupuncture.
Okay, more acupuncture. On the schedule 3 times.
Actually, that's wonderful.
Just a little bada bing, bada boom. I did get hollered at by Dr. Danny today about needing to face my fears, so the time is
Oh, that's why you still haven't. Oh, can it be me? I want it to be
It can
me.
be you. It can certainly be you.
Our very first podcast was ever going to do it live.
We will. We'll set it up. We'll do like a little recording, and at the very least, we'll put it on the Instagram story.
Love it.
Deal. Let's see. A lot of people take melatonin to fall asleep. Seems like the body gets used to it fast, and you need to take more and more. Is it good to even take it in the first place?
I don't remember his whole stance on melatonin. I'm not going to be non-transparent about that, but he did say that melatonin isn't what puts you to sleep. It's just kind of what signals to the body that like it's coming. Although what's interesting is I have used that for my son, like during the spring forward, fall back, all those weird things, just to kind of cinch it in the butt, nip it in the bud. But I would say, from what I've heard of outside research, outside the book, they do say that your body will start to become dependent on it. So, your body's supposed to release melatonin in this kind of synchronicity and harmonious, fashion with all these other things that are happening in the body. If you're just popping that melatonin in when the other pieces aren't in line with the rest of that perfect sleep cycle, you're not going to do yourself any justice because the other things aren't ready. So you're kind of jumping the gun, I think, by doing melatonin. And then, like you said, your body is going to stop releasing it on its own. And then I think you will have a dependency. So I don't think it's preferred.
Maybe like low dose once in a blue moon kind of a thing?
If you need it, but it can't, like anything, I don't think it can be your replacement.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Ooh, it was in the brain and now it's out of the brain.
It's just sleepy.
And you know what? All the sleep talk really is releasing the melatonin for me. Found it. Okay. So we were talking earlier about like stressful situations. Do you think like a sleepy bedtime journal?
I think that's a great idea. No. What's really interesting too, what you mentioned about the sleepy bedtime journal, is that we didn't really talk too much about this, but it did come up in the book. What happens during REM sleep. So they talk about how that's kind of when they say it's like emotional therapy for yourself. So they talk about dreams. That's when you dream. It's the whole rapid eye movement piece. But they do say that, and I'm getting to the journaling piece. If you're journaling, you're kind of bringing things to the forefront of your mind, which is great. Whether it's a past thought, a new thought, you're kind of putting it into the front of your brain, into your awareness. So when you go into, your deep sleep, your REM sleep, your dream state, they say that all your old memories and all your new memories, all this information kind of integrates. So I think it's a great way to kind of get ready for therapy, so to speak, if you do journal before bed. I think that's actually a really cool idea. And I'd be really curious to see, if I were to do that, what kind of dreams I may or may not have. They also say it's a great way because not only are you integrating stuff, but it's a what do they call it? Hyper associative state. So like your brain starts mixing all these weird things together, which is why sometimes we have these crazy weird dreams. But that's also sometimes where we come up with creative solutions, connections to things that we may have not made that connection in kind of our waking life. So that came up a little bit in the book about dream sleep and memories and knowledge and insight. And they also talked about, what was the other thing in dream? Oh, this was really interesting. So they said, as far as like emotions go, you might have had something happen, whether it was just really sad or really, really traumatic. And they say that when you can get into that deep sleep, that dream sleep, and you can kind of relive that a little bit, what is it? Like the hormones and the stress and the cortisol and the adrenaline aren't high while you're experiencing it. So it actually helps you process things like trauma and stress that you've had throughout the day. And it pairs the experience that you're having while you're dreaming without the hormonal response. And it helps you then go back into any of those situations with a sense of safety that maybe you didn't have if you didn't have that dream experience of the traumatic or stressful situation without the chemical response in the body. So they say that in cases, especially with something like PTSD, if you don't get into that deep sleep and that dream sleep where you can have that possible experience, your PTSD can actually either stay or get worse because you're not processing it. You're not ever getting that chance to relive it in a safe way. So I thought that was an interesting thing. But going back to the journal, it's kind of like you're feeding the machine, I think, before you go to sleep. If you were to dream journal, I think it's a fantastic idea. And I also heard too, some people say, I don't dream. But someone said, if you don't think you dream, what you need to do is you need to have something, whether it's like a voice note or a journal by your bed. And the second you wake up, write it. Or if you have a partner, tell it to them, because the second you can put it out into language, it does go into your memory and you'll be able to recall it. But without putting it out there, sometimes it's harder to recall.
Yeah. I read something a while ago, so my memory might not be serving me on this. But essentially, it's like you have maybe it's 5 to 10 window gap from the time that you wake up to remember or to think about your dream. Otherwise, it's completely gone. Same way as you have a 5 to 10 second gap in your memory before you fall asleep because your brain's not processing that information.
It totally I want to say, yeah,
Don't know.
that totally makes sense. But I'm also going to play devil's advocate, because have you ever had a dream that you completely forgot you had, and then something throughout the day triggers it? Like, oh my God, like seeing this, I don't know, this stapler just reminded me that I had a dream about something with a stapler in it. So on the one hand, I want to say, yeah, that window makes total sense, because everything starts coming alive and like taking over that particular memory of the dream. But at the same time, I have had incidences where like some object throughout the day will kind of remind me that I had a specific dream.
You actually reminded me of like a weird childhood dream that I had when you said like, oh, sometimes they're just wacky and weird. I had a dream that I was locked inside of Ameli's furniture. Like, you know when you walk into a store and there's like one set of sliding doors and then there's like another set of
Yeah.
sliding doors? I'm trapped there. I'm probably 7, and it's a zombie apocalypse.
My God.
That's a dream that I had. Forgot I
It, you should sit and journal about that before you go to bed tonight, because you do. It's like, why? It just makes me. I mean, this is a whole other topic,
Mhm.
like analysis. But like, why were you 7? Why were you trapped?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I did have an
doors.
irrational fear of the Mealy's furniture.
Okay.
Don't know why.
Is it like all the furniture? Is
No
it?
clue. It was the outside of the building. Don't know why. It's a fusion gym now, but it scared the crap out of me. I never wanted to go in that store, and I never did.
It's time to dig into that. I'd be curious.
We got a lot to unpack.
What's interesting too, and I would have to ask what he said about it. I know Dr. Danny has had a couple patients talk about like really vivid dreams, or I don't want to say night terrors, but unrestful sleep, that dreams were involved. And he does mention the idea of like eating before bed. So, I mean, again, it's not something that's in the book, and I'm just kind of like workshopping the idea now, but I'm wondering like how, eating before bed affects sleep. I'm thinking, you're in rest and digest when you're eating, but then if you go into sleep, if it's not a good sleep, I'm wondering if there's like a conflict between, your rest and digest parasympathetic system versus your sympathetic system. If they can't kind of get in sync, maybe one, I don't know.
And I feel like you're onto something there. Like, especially with like Thanksgiving was last week. Everybody stuffed themselves to the point of nausea. The classic turkey coma. Everybody goes back to work on Friday and they are dragging through the day. They're not energized.
And I wonder if maybe a lot of energy has to go into digestion, that
Yeah.
it's not able to do the full body repair, the whole maintenance window thing that it was supposed to do. But again, I don't remember it coming up in the book, but I'd be curious to know, like he's mentioned about eating before bed as being possibly a barrier to restful sleep. And then it makes me wonder if that barrier is energy going to another place instead of into repair mode. Yeah. So then you can't enter the NREM, and then you just kind of miss that chunk. So
yeah. Well, now we're scientists and we formed a hypothesis.
We'll have to ask him next time we see him.
We're writing our own book now. Ooh. I think this is like sleep paralysis-y, maybe. I've experienced being awake but was stuck and couldn't move. Usually happens when I have low energy and having trouble with getting good sleep. Does this happen because I'm not feeling good?
It actually happens. So remember that kind of the diagram that I drew in the air with my hands?
Yeah.
You go through N1, N2, N3, and this is all your NREM sleep, not rapid eye movement. Once you get into rapid eye movement, your muscles can't move. So if you wake during this deeper sleep, that's when you are awake, but your body can't move. So that's why people sometimes have sleep paralysis. It's what stage you wake up when you're sleeping. So
terrifying.
It is, and that's part of it too, is you're still dreaming. I mean, like you're in between, so it is terrifying. But physically, there was a word for it. I wish I could remember what the word for it was. I think it was something atonia. They did. They called it muscle atonia. And they call it paradoxal sleep, when your mind is awake, but your body's still in that dream state. So your body still thinks it's sleeping and it's in muscle atonia, but your mind wakes up. So you're seeing everything in the room. But I mean, and night terrors, all those things also are in that REM sleep, that deeper sleep. So there's a lot of stuff happening then.
If I was president, I would ban it. That's my take. I wonder is there like a purpose? for it? Like, why do we?
Well, I mean, we have the deep sleep for all those reasons
Yeah, but
that we
the
said, but I don't really know why you would wake up from it. I mean, obviously the stimulus extra, well, I don't know, because sometimes you're in the dead of, you know, you're in complete quiet in the house. And I know my son has said that's happened to him once or twice where he woke up and he just couldn't move.
Mhm.
But there's no reason that I know of at this time why you would wake up. I'd have to look that one up.
Yeah, like for me, it usually happens if I'm napping.
Okay.
I take a little quick nap. I usually have some form of sleep paralysis, and fortunately, there's
Okay.
usually someone nearby to actually wake me up. But
Okay.
I don't know, because my thought would be like, maybe it's to stop us from like acting out our dreams, but then we also have sleepwalkers.
That's I'm just curious though, what is your experience? Because I'm like a dead
Mhm.
sleeper. So I've never woken up in that state. What is that like?
It's for me, it's weird because I feel like I am awake. I feel like I can see the room that I'm in. I can see the people around me. I
Mhm.
know I can't after the fact and I've actually woken up, but I can't move, but I can control my breathing.
Okay.
So when my breathing quickens, somebody's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
get up." But I genuinely feel like I'm watching whatever's on TV or I can hear whoever's near me talking. But
Wow.
then when I wake up, it's something completely different on TV, or the other people aren't in the room anymore, so they couldn't have been talking, or the dog's outside, so they weren't stepping on me.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, I thought it was interesting that you pointed out that it's when you are napping. So it's not like when you have, so I don't know. I don't know this. It's just me shooting the S with you. But when we talk about having these waves, so throughout, we go down, we come back up. So I'm wondering if sometimes it's happening more frequently when you nap because your body will get in the rhythm of going up and down, that it's just kind of like lost in the cycle. So it might not happen when you're sleeping for your 9 hours. But if it's like maybe the first time you went down, your body's not in the rhythm of going through REM, non-REM, REM, non-REM. And maybe you're just more sensitive to having that happen
Yeah,
because you're not lost in kind of the sleep cycle.
yeah.
But I know
I've
it
always
happens to people,
attributed to exhaustion.
so I don't
Yeah. In my head, it's always just been like, I am so tired that I need to take a nap, and my brain jumps the gun and goes, "You're sleeping." And my body's like, "No."
why. That's interesting too, because I do wonder sometimes. I haven't really thought about how I would link this in the book, unless it's just sleep deprivation in your body trying to catch up. But why would sometimes in the middle of the day you do have that, like, oh my God, I just can't keep my eyes open because your clock is not there. Like our
Mhm.
24-hour clock doesn't change. Why in the middle of the day would our adenosine spike to the point where we think we need to go to sleep? Because from what the research is saying, your melatonin's not there, your circadian rhythm's not there, and technically, I think your adenosine can't be there because unless you just have chronic fatigue and that pressure's off. But that's an interesting thing to think about is what is the reason some people have that chronic fatigue in the middle of the day.
Mhm.
um, and I think it's just because it's the body trying to recoup, I guess, as we talked
Yeah.
about kind of in another question.
I think it definitely could be lack of quality of sleep because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like people that I know, so I'm pulling from a very small pool here. The people that I know that go to work and they enjoy their jobs, go home and have a life. The people that I know that have the job that just pays the bill usually goes home and needs some kind of nap. So maybe it's the emotional toll, the physical energy.
Mhm.
You're putting out more than you're actually getting back in.
Yeah.
That's kind of pushing your body to the point of just shut off.
Hmm.
Don't
Yeah.
know for sure, but
No, I think you're right. It's going back to that evolutionary need for sleep and trying to get it back, in any way it can. Yeah.
We're scientists. I feel like you kind of answered this one in the beginning, but it is in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Is there a good time to fall asleep for your circadian rhythm?
They didn't, I mean, I don't have like the clock and all the data in front of me, but they did say, again, if you are an early bird and you're more in tune to when it's light outside in the morning, getting up with it and going, then when you start to feel tired, usually around, I'm guessing, they say you need that 9 hours. So if you were to do the math backwards, please don't ask me to do the math backwards at 9 o'clock at night.
No.
Let's pretend you woke up at 6, do the backwards math, 9 hours later. That's about the time you should be going to sleep, because your body is prepped biologically to have that 9-hour maintenance window. Whereas if you're a night owl, just do the math the other way. So whatever time you get up in the morning, whether maybe it's 10 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock, just work your 9 hours backwards that way and kind of go from there. But going back to what we said, we've kind of pushed and played with our override. So I don't think we're really as in tune with those feelings in our body. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying maybe about your boyfriend. And I'm not trying to like throw him under the bus. I mean, I think a lot of people are like this, but I think we do say, oh, I can, but just because you can doesn't mean you should, just because that's your normal, just because you physically stay awake and get through your day with that much sleep doesn't mean that's your body acting in its prime. And I guess I would use the analogy, I had a flat tire a while back, and I am such a procrastinator. I've been driving around with this stupid donut on my car, but I don't know the donut's there. It's getting me from here to there. But I know that if I go too fast on the turnpike, that donut's going to fall off. So I kind of feel like that's us when we kind of hijack our sleep and we override it and we think we can do just fine without it. We're in our car with our sleep deprivation or our donut, and eventually something's going to happen, whether we get sick, whether we get emotional, like snippy, snappy, moody with people around us. It can contribute, sleep deprivation, to depression and anxiety, because you're never giving your body that time to kind of go back into parasympathetic mode so you can go back into your day. You're just kind of this jacked up, wired person. So I forgot what the question was, but it had to do with, I think, the rhythm and when to go to sleep.
Best time.
Yeah. And then I just going back to that idea of that is like the best time for optimization. And it might take a little rethinking what we feel is ready for sleep and tired versus what, maybe reconditioning ourselves to get in touch with what it means to actually be tired or in need of rest versus just only resting when we're exhausted.
Yeah. Listen to the body. It's telling you something. So then what can we do prerequisitely to help us out?
I love that.
Bear with me.
That made me feel really good, because prerequisitely, I would say, we talked about blue light. We talked about, we kind of touched on eating, although that's just a me throw in based on things I've heard in the treatment room with Dr. Danny. We talked about kind of finding that, you touched on finding that best time to go to bed and trying to wind down. I think also not trying to power through all the time and resetting your new normal. So you are in touch with your body, you are listening to it instead of reestablishing a new norm. What were some of the other things? I love the idea, what you said about journaling before bed. That was a good one. I could probably pull out the book and give you a list of things. But I think one of them, and it's so simple, but it doesn't happen a lot, is making rest a priority. the dishes will be there. I'm saying this to myself because I like to have everything like perfect when I wake up. I don't want to have to like see crap from the day before, but like the dishes will be there. They will get done when they get done. Laundry will be they'll get done when they get done. The dog hair will be on the floor. Like not everything has to get done. You know, sometimes you have to prioritize your health, and it's not just your physical health, it's your physical health, your mental health. So when you go back into your day, you're not just getting through it, but you are optimized to handle all the pieces. So I think that would be the priority, is prioritizing your sleep, making sure you're trying to prep your body to get that sleep, you know, setting yourself up for success there, and then actually doing the thing. And if you are struggling, I know he cautions, like, this isn't a book that you're supposed to now doctors read and be like, oh, we need to give more sleep prescriptions out. No, that's not the point. The point is to kind of get back into your rhythm. So acupuncture, I mean, acupuncture is a great way. There's so many points. If you're having insomnia, go see someone to help your body. If it's an anxious email and your sympathetic system is just kind of on hyperdrive, try to get that down so that it's not keeping you awake. So it's interesting. I have a lot of patients. I mean, I know we're kind of running out of time, but I didn't even think about this. But so many times a patient will come in and they'll come in for, you know, whatever the chief complaint is. But one of the immediately, if it's something simple like sciatica, they're great, they're out the door, whatever. But sometimes if it's something like shoulder pain that takes a few more treatments, or maybe it's IBS or something that's a little more chronic and takes a little more time, one of the first things I feel like they say the next appointment is like, I've never slept so well. So I just think it's interesting how people are going around not sleeping well, but it's not even on their radar as being a complaint. But once they do start to sleep well, it's almost like like kindling on a fire for that healing process. And then they continue to sleep well. And I just feel like they start to heal after. But it's just one of those things that's always in the background of people with a lot of chronic conditions. And it's one of the first things to maybe kind of snap back into place with acupuncture.
I mean, and it makes so much sense because the other things kind of live in the forefront. So maybe they think it's more of like a symptom than it is.
You just said it perfectly when you said it's a symptom. You know, in school, we talk about root and branches. So many things, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, you know, slow healing and tissue repair, they all are these branches, but not the root, but one of the roots could be poor sleep, because our body is meant to heal itself. So maybe that's just one of those things that, just one of the few things that acupuncture can do is help with sleep to then naturally help the body kind of target insulin resistance or cardiovascular disease, or help with tissue repair.
I do like what you said earlier too about like the dishes will be there in the morning. Here is the formal public service announcement. There is very little in life, very little, and I do mean this, that is actually going to explode if you save it for tomorrow. And that doesn't mean like push off your taxes until 2028, but the email at work, guarantee you can be answered tomorrow. Like,
honestly, it could be answered. All the things that are keeping you up at night, you will do them better with a good night's sleep. You will answer that email better, probably less in a snippy way or a wordy. It'll be just right if you just go to bed, leave it alone, and attack all these different things with a fresh brain. Just put it down and go to sleep for a little bit.
Exactly. I mean, and most people will receive an email better at 8 a.m. than they will at 3 a.m.
It's so true.
That's working for you. But genuinely, there is so little in life that is actually a true emergency that it's not worth losing sleep.
Sorry, my husband was asking if our dogs ate.
You're fine.
And they did eat.
Good. Very important. I love them. I think we're wrapping.
I agree. I think that was a good segue.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining. Always love having you on. As always,
Thank
professionals at the round table. We'll see you next week.